Clyde, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be on FRC.
It's good to see you today. Tell me, are the moves by Governors Abbott and DeSantis finally waking people up to the situation at the border, you think?
Well, I think that they should be commended because, if a city is going to declare themselves a sanctuary city, then I think that they just said to the entire country, we are a magnet. Send us the illegals. That we're a sanctuary city. We'll take care of them. We're happy to. Martha's Vineyard did that. San Francisco's done that. The numerous other liberal cities, Washington, D.C. here. I think all the mayors should welcome them with open arms. I mean, I think that's exactly what it means when you create a sanctuary city. And so I applaud the governors of both Florida and of Texas, and any other governors that want to send these illegals to the sanctuary cities. I think it's a great idea.
Well, does that mean that you're surprised by the reaction they've received when these migrants have been sent to these cities?
I'm shocked. I would think they'd be happy about that. But, obviously Martha's Vineyard wasn't very happy about it. They rounded them all up and within 48 hours or so shipped them to a military base. Really? I mean, the hypocrisy of the left is just astounding. And that's what the American people are seeing here. Yeah, I hope the governors of these states send more of them up there. Don't send 50, send 500. Because they need to be understanding the pain that the border states are feeling. They need to feel that. They need to see that, because it's the policies of the left that have created this crisis and disaster. And, they want the border states to feel it, but they don't want anything to do with it. Yet they're the ones that created the crisis. They supported President Biden. President Biden made the executive orders created the executive orders that made for an open border. Latin America is simply responding to these policies.
Now, Congressman, there seems to be some disagreement among Democrats about whether the border actually is secure. Last week, Vice President Kamala Harris said that it was secure, and ABC's News' John Carl asked Mayor Adams from New York City about that. Let's play clip 2.
Vice President Harris 1 week ago said that the border is secure. Do you agree with that? Do you think our southern border is secure?
I believe that we can continue to coordinate better to make sure that it is secured properly.
Congressman, how do you interpret that?
Well, when he says secure properly, I mean, he gives it away right there. It is not a secure border. The border has not been secure since President Biden took office. I mean, when he stopped the construction of the border wall, that's evidence right there. When you see people pouring across the border and then our government funding transport of them further inland. In fact, when I was in McAllen, Texas last year, I was on an airplane going from McAllen to Dallas, and there were 12 illegals on that airplane, 2 of them sitting right beside me on their way to Philadelphia, courtesy of the federal government funding the travel via 501c3s. It's inexcusable. The Biden administration has caused this crisis. The country needs to know that it is a continuing crisis. It's not something that's come and gone. It's ongoing. In fact, actually, it's getting worse. So I think that that this is a huge issue for us. It's causing crime to increase. It's causing governments to spend money on illegals where they shouldn't have to. Money being taken away from citizens. It's a disgrace. And this needs to stop. And I just think that that the country needs to drastically change course here when it comes to leadership.
We're speaking to Congressman Andrew Clyde from the great state of Georgia. And Congressman, there's a lot of conversation about this. Certainly the actions of Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis have gotten the nation's attention. There's a lot more conversation about the border situation because of the busing decisions that they have made. Do you think that this conversation and essentially getting some of these sanctuary cities and blue state governors and mayors to become involved in the situation, is that going to change the posture of the Biden administration? Do you think it'll change their behavior?
I hope it does. I really do. But I'm not very confident that it will, because I think they have a nefarious end here, and that is that they want to increase the population of the blue states that are losing population, and I think they want to do that basically to keep the population so that the census will the congressional seats in those particular states. And then they want it, as we heard earlier last week, they want to turn them into voters. They want to give them amnesty, and they believe that they'll vote for Democrats. But this is wrong. And I think the mayors in these cities are going to feel the pain of it. And I think they should feel the pain of it, because these are policies that the left has created, and the left has to take responsibility for them. And the American people need to know that, and they need to make a change in leadership.
Congressman, last question on this subject. Lots of issues that the voters are concerned about heading into November. Where does this rank for voters, do you think?
Well, I think probably the number one issue is inflation. And after that, it's inflation, and it's inflation. I think that this will come down a little bit below that. Probably crime is after inflation, and border security, I think, directly relates to that. So I think it's in the top 3 or 4 when it comes to what voters are actually looking at. And yeah, I mean, you've got the Second Amendment issue as well, with the Biden administration trying to take our guns and trying to cancel us as our First Amendment. I think that's a big issue for folks. They're experiencing that individually when the big tech companies cancel their voice online. So there's a number of issues that the Biden administration has created, and couldn't tell you the exact order, except I'll tell you inflation's number 1.
Congressman, I want to switch gears on you a bit. You proposed a new bill called the Protect the Unborn Act. Excuse me. Tell us what you're trying to do there.
Thank you. Yes, that is a great piece of legislation, and it is defunding the 2 Biden executive orders, that 14076 and 14079 that President Biden issued in July and August of this year. And those 2 orders are in response to the Supreme Court's decision to strike down Roe v. Wade and to send the subject of abortion back to the states, which is where it belongs. I think what President Biden did was a huge overreach of the federal government. He's trying to legislate here, and he is not in the legislative branch. He's in the executive branch. Yeah. He is supposed to faithfully execute the laws as Congress, the representatives of the people, pass them. And that's not what he's doing. He's trying to create his own law and trying to push abortion services funded with federal money down to states that prohibit it, like my state of Georgia, which prohibits abortion. We have a heartbeat law. And if a heartbeat is detectable, then abortion cannot be performed. But for President Biden to sign these executive orders just flies in the face of what the Supreme Court has done. And my bill, the Protect the Unborn Act, is designed to strike down these 2 executive orders and to defund them. And I was proud to introduce it last week with 90 Republican original co-sponsors. So it's got a lot of support, as it should, because it protects the innocent unborn. It protects states' rights. It recognizes the authority of the Supreme Court, and it tells the Biden administration that they have overreached.
That legislation, of course, is more evidence of why elections matter. Of course, that will not be advanced by the current Speaker of the House. And so for those who are interested in seeing that and other pro-life legislation, frankly, advanced, that's going to be determined by the voters this coming November. Now, Congressman, we know that the Hyde Amendment has been in place for a long time, and it prohibits already the use of federal funds for abortion. Why does that not take care of this situation?
Well, I think that you see that President Biden is simply ignoring federal law. It is federal law. There's a number of things that President Biden, I think, is requiring here or asking the departments within the federal government to do that violate the law. And, it could go to the court, but it would take, as we have seen, a year and a half for the courts to actually make a decision and to strike down these executive orders. So I think we need a more immediate solution. So a legislative solution, I think, is the right one. And hopefully we'll have the majority in January, and we'll be able to advance legislation like this in January to strike down his executive orders. I mean, just go ahead.
Final question for you, about a minute left, less than that. You and 43 of your colleagues sent a letter to the Veterans Affairs Secretary, Dennis McDonough, demanding he rescind the new VA rule that provides abortion services through VA healthcare. Where does that stand?
Well, and that's exactly what I was about to mention. I mean, you have the VA responding to President Biden's executive orders, which were basically telling the administration or the executive agencies, hey, find where you can to push abortion services into states that are preventing it. And it's unconscionable that the VA would be spending money designed to provide health care to veterans on abortion services, federally funded abortion services.